Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a closer look at the extraordinary life and, well, the really intensely expressive music of Jackie McLean.
Absolutely. If you've listened to much jazz saxophone, you definitely know his name. He was an artist who really broke the mold.
Yeah, that fiery, sometimes described as bittersweet tone and that harmonic daring, it just set him apart.
Mm-hmm.
And you've given us, a really rich collection of sources about him.
Right.
So our mission, as always, is to kind of cut through all that and pull out the most important insights.
Basically give you the shortcut to being genuinely well-informed about his impact.
Exactly.
And what strikes you right away looking at these sources is McLean's unique knack for connecting, well, seemingly quite different jazz styles.
He really did move so fluidly, didn't he?
Yeah.
Between hard bop
Yeah, that driving rhythm and complex harmony.
and then modal jazz, which is much more expansive, almost meditative.
And then straight into the avant-garde. Adventurous stuff, really challenging the norms.
Mm. And albums like Let Freedom Ring, Bluesnick, Destination, Out. They weren't just acclaimed by critics.
No, not at all. They earned him serious respect from giants, Art Blakey, Charles Mingus, Donald Byrd.
And importantly, from his students later on, too.
That's a key part of his story.
It's really a fascinating journey we're about to trace here. From his childhood in Harlem,
Yeah.
steeped in jazz.
Can you imagine being sort of informally mentored by legends like Thelonious Monk, Bud Powell, Charlie Parker, just around the neighborhood?
Incredible.
Yeah.
And then navigating through his personal struggles and triumphs.
Right.
To become not just this groundbreaking performer, but also a really dedicated educator and community figure.
And there are some genuinely surprising details in this material you gave us, like that wild encounter with Charles Mingus.
Oh, yeah. That's become part of jazz lore, hasn't it?
It really has. Or, how his music popped up in unexpected places, like a funk single or even a TV show much later.
Right, right. So this deep dive isn't just about, listing dates and albums.
No, it's about getting to the heart of what made McLean tick. Why was he seen as this artist of kind of rebellion and spiritual exploration?
And how his activism, his unwavering activism, was just as much a part of his legacy as the music itself.
We want to understand the why and the impact. He was truly a transformational figure in jazz.
So let's start at the beginning then. Jackie McLean, born John Linwood McLean, he arrived in Harlem in 1931.
Right into the heart of it all.
And he was immersed in jazz, literally from childhood. His father, John Sr., played guitar in Tiny Bradshaw's orchestra.
Yeah, though tragically his father passed away when Jackie was only, 8?
Just 8. But that musical seed was already planted.
And this is where those legendary mentors really come into play. The sources make it super clear his education was, well, incredibly informal, almost organic.
Not like a conservatory or anything.
No, exactly. Growing up in Harlem, his classroom was the street. It was the living rooms of Monk, Powell, Parker.
Unbelievable accent.
That kind of informal mentorship, it's just unparalleled. And it profoundly shaped his early sound. Plus, his godfather and his stepfather, who owned a record store, they also really nurtured his talent.
So it sounds like music was almost his destiny from the start.
It certainly seems that way.
And by high school, he was already playing alongside guys who would become jazz greats themselves. Sonny Rollins, Kenny Drew.
Yeah, the talent pool was incredible then.
And then, boom, by age 20, he's recording with Miles Davis, the iconic Dig session in 1951.
An amazing start.
Yep.
But his early career wasn't exactly smooth sailing.
No, he battled heroin addiction pretty early on, which famously cost him his New York City cabaret card.
And losing that cabaret card, well, it wasn't just an inconvenience, was it?
Not at all. It was devastating for so many musicians, especially black artists back then.
These cards were basically a license to perform in clubs. And having it revoked, often for, drug offenses or sometimes pretty arbitrary reasons.
It effectively blacklisted them from the live scene, the main source of income for many.
Right. It forced a lot of musicians, McLean included, into the recording studio more because those restrictions didn't apply there.
Which, ironically, is partly why we have such a prolific discography from him during that period.
It really speaks volumes, though, about the systemic hurdles they faced.
It's truly remarkable how he pushed through that.
Yeah.
These early struggles seemed to forge this incredible resilience in him.
Instead of retreating, he seemed to redefine his path.
Which led directly to that pivotal moment, joining Art Blakey's Jazz Messengers in 1956.
Ah, yes. A cornerstone of that iconic hard bop lineup. He really helped define that era on albums like Monin and A Midnight Session.
You can just hear his mastery growing on those records.
And speaking of navigating the scene, it's fascinating how he dealt with the intense personalities.
You mean the Mingus story?
Exactly. Our sources recount this really volatile encounter during their Pithecanthropus erectus collaboration in '56.
René McLean apparently drew a knife.
In self-defense, yeah. According to the accounts, he feared for his life during some kind of confrontation.
Wow. That led to him leaving Mingus's band, right?
It did. It's a pretty stark anecdote, but it really underscores the raw, almost dangerous energy of the jazz scene sometimes back then.
That Mingus story certainly paints a picture.
Yeah.
Intense.
Yeah.
But despite, or maybe even because of, those kinds of experiences, McLean signs with Blue Note Records in 1959.
A crucial move. This marked a new phase, definitely.
He starts releasing these really formative albums as a leader. New Soil, Swing, Swang, Swangin', Capuchin Swing. Great titles, too.
Classic Blue Note era stuff. But then, by the early 60s, something really transformative starts happening in his music.
He begins integrating modal jazz and even avant-garde ideas into his sound.
And not just dipping his toe in, he was truly synthesizing them.
Which culminates in Let Freedom Ring in 1962, widely seen as a landmark album.
Absolutely. And this wasn't just, artistic noodling. This was McLean using his saxophone as a voice, an instrument of social commentary.
You can really hear the influence of the civil rights movement, can't you?
Oh, profoundly. It's this powerful fusion blending Ornette Coleman's free jazz ideas with Afro-Caribbean rhythms and this deep spiritual urgency.
That searing tone he had.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a sound, was it? It felt like an expression of the era's turbulence.
Exactly. A musical rebellion against complacency, a spiritual cry for freedom. You hear it so clearly on tracks like Omega or Melanin Speaks.
And his artistic evolution just kept going through the 60s. Recording more seminal albums as a leader.
Bluesnik in '61.
Destination Out in '64, where he collaborated with the avant-garde drummer Michael Carvin.
Pushing those improvisational boundaries even further.
And look at the people he worked with. Donald Byrd, Lee Morgan, Freddie Hubbard, Gresham Munker III.
An incredible roster. He was right at the center of it all, constantly evolving.
Yeah.
But even as he embraced all this experimentation, the avant-garde stuff, his sound always remained unmistakably Jackie McLean.
That sharp, searing tone, the blues roots in his playing.
Right. It wasn't about ditching tradition. It was about expanding it, making it speak to new ideas, new feelings, creating his own unique language within jazz as it was evolving.
Okay, so here's where his impact kind of branches out beyond just performance.
Yeah.
In 1968, McLean makes a pretty big shift.
Right. He moves into academia, founds the Jackie McLean Institute of Jazz at the University of Hartford.
And not just that, he also co-creates the Artists Collective in Hartford,
which is this amazing organization dedicated to preserving African diaspora arts, dance, theater, music, visual arts through education.
This dedication to teaching and community building, it really shows another whole dimension of his activism, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. His commitment to mentoring was profound. He shaped future generations, including his own son, René McLean, who's a great musician himself.
And others like trombonist Steve Davis.
Yeah. It really makes you think, what does it tell us about an artist of his stature when they choose to pour so much energy in their later life into nurturing others, into preserving cultural heritage?
It's a powerful choice. And he kept recording, too, into the 70s and 80s.
Like New York Calling in 1980, which was that dynamic collaboration with his son, René, shows that continuous commitment.
So as we kind of bring this deep dive toward a close, what really stands out is that Jackie McLean's story is just so much more than a discography.
Definitely. He wasn't just a virtuosic sax player. He was this vital bridge between different jazz traditions.
Fearlessly blending that hard bop drive.
With avant-garde freedom, yeah. And infusing it all with such raw emotion and spiritual depth.
He really did elevate the saxophone, making it an instrument of rebellion and spiritual searching.
And his contributions beyond the stage, they were just as profound. That move to academia in '68, founding the Institute.
And co-creating the Artists Collective in Hartford.
That really shaped the landscape of jazz education and cultural preservation. His whole career, you could argue, from the edge in his horn to his teaching, was like a continuous act of self-determination.
And social justice, in a way.
Absolutely. And that commitment to mentoring. We mentioned René McLean, Steve Davis shaping generations.
And his music's footprint, it's endured in some pretty fascinating and, unexpected ways.
Right. The sources mention his 1979 single, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Funk, a funk-infused track.
Which actually hit the UK singles chart, number 53. Who would predict that for a hard bop icon?
It just shows his musical breadth, doesn't it? Amazing.
And then much later, his 1965 album Jackknife got renewed attention because it was used in that TV show, Sons of Anarchy, back in 2014.
Little echoes of his work still resonating long after his passing in 2006.
The same year, fittingly, he was inducted into the DownBeat Hall of Fame.
It feels right. You know, exploring a life like McLean's through these sources you provided, it really gives you a powerful lens.
Not just on jazz history.
No, but on bigger themes. Artistic evolution, resilience, especially thinking about that early addiction and how it impacted his career.
And the incredible importance of giving back to your community.
His legacy is really one of unwavering activism, dedication to his art, and dedication to his people.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the listener? When you consider Jackie McLean's journey, Harlem streets to esteemed educator, constantly pushing musical boundaries, but always embracing his community.
What does his life tell us about the true definition of artistry or legacy?
Right. And maybe more pointedly, how do we identify and, crucially, nurture the next generation of innovators? Those who can blend tradition with their own unique spirit, just like Jackie McLean did.
That's definitely something to think about.